I mean, people that are very, very close to me and close to us. I can see Miss Rose, Mr. Olanuti, Mr. Max, and McCaffrey. I greet you all, and on behalf of the LUN and Lovebox team, I want to welcome you to the Leadership Masterclass. All right, just a minute to go on live. All right, we're going on live right away. So now we're live on Instagram. So, well, the Zoom is actually meant just for people that want to be on Zoom. It's not like open like for everyone, just for people that want to be on Zoom. All right, so if we have people that want to invite, we can just inform them that we are also live. All right, so we are just getting started right away. And once again, I want to welcome everyone present here today. What we'll be doing is just answering a couple of questions. All right, some of the questions we've already started talking about them in the Instagram live. But this time around, I would also be giving us more insights concerning them. And there are about 5 of them, but wherever I'm able to stop is where I will stop, because I don't want it to exceed 15 minutes. All right, so the first one is this: can anybody lead? Can anybody lead? So that's the first question. Can anybody lead? I mean, just anybody. Can anybody lead? Because it's quite important we have answer to that question. All right, because it affects the way we see people around us. All right, I believe that there are people that are leaders, and there are people that are makers of leaders. All right, and unless one becomes a maker of leader, every time a new leader starts emerging, one will feel threatened by that person. All right, so that is what answers this question. How to train our eyes when we see people, we see their potentials, we see their abilities. All right, then another question is, how does love change everything in leadership? All right, we'll talk about 7 important things that love changes. And if you still have time, then we'll talk about the 80-20 rule of leadership. We are familiar with the Pareto principle, that when you see results being done somewhere, usually it is 20% of efforts that is actually producing that. I mean, 20% of the people are responsible for 80% of the results, even in an organization. And we see, even in leadership, we see in leadership in a lot of places, it is not like everyone that is making the decision. All right, it is 20%. All right, they call it the enlightened minority in some communities. All right, then we also check the 3 pillars of leadership. This is profound. All right, and it is applicable everywhere. All right, there are basically 3 pillars. So even if you have been, I believe we have been successful leaders, but even at that, all right, you see that everything that you have been doing, we can actually summarize them in 3 things. All right, so those are the 3 pillars of the leadership. And finally, if we have time, hopefully, we also talk about identifying leadership defining moments. All right, in the school, for instance, when we go to school, there are lots of tests that we do. All right, sometimes there are questions in the class, there are exercises in the class, but however, there is an examination day. All right, and how we perform on the examination day determines a whole lot of things. For those that probably went to university, there's a final graduation, there's a final defense. All right, so also in leadership, there are moments that are more important than other moments. All right, and these moments, if you are trained, you will recognize them, because they are usually moments of pressure. All right, so those are 5 things I'll be talking about. All right, so just before we go into that, I would like to talk about why we are going through this series on leading by love, on love and leadership, on leadership recalibration. Why are we going through this? All right, the reason why we are going through this is because, first of all, the power of love has been underestimated by so many people. And I'm not passionate about love just because it is my name. Yes, love is my name, but that's not why I'm passionate about love. All right, I'm passionate about love because I have come to see, and I'm getting to see and understand the power of love. How love can transform, how love can equip, how love can revive, how love can innovate, how love can change, how love can deliver. Love can practically do everything. And when you check the life of successful and respected men, all right, well, they may not understand the principles, but you see that the things that makes the world respect them the most, you see that the love was actually responsible for most of them. And I've read quite a number of books, and I've seen a lot of laws, all right. There are several laws of leadership, all right. But by the time you evaluate a lot of them, you see that the 20% that is responsible for the 80% of results is actually founded and established on the principles of love. Then it now makes me understand the words of Jesus, where he says that love is a law. In love is all the laws fulfilled. All right. So on this Love Works Leadership Masterclass, we just be examining how we can transform our leadership by understanding the power of love. How we can transform our leadership by understanding the power of love. All right, so just before I go to the first question, let me see if we are following. Please, is anybody following? I can see people joining on Instagram. Hello, Instagram family. Hello, you're welcome. All right, I can see Liz George there. All right, so just before we do that, leadership recalibration. All right, I want to ask. So, what's really the meaning of recalibration? What's the meaning of recalibration? Why are we recalibrating? Why are we recalibrating? All right, now to recalibrate, it means to set an instrument to a standard. Now I'm paraphrasing now. All right, and take for instance, if you have something like a compass, all right, it is meant to give you a direction towards a place. All right, and okay, I can see that we have some of our pilots here, and we understand the importance of compass when you're traveling. Practically, when you are in the air, I stand to be corrected, you depend a lot on your compass because it gives you direction. Now, before the compass can be trusted, it has to be calibrated because it gives you the direction to where you're going. All right. Now, for us, also in our leadership journey, there are a lot of things that we depend on for making decisions. And a lot of times, those things, if they are not properly calibrated, they tend to misinform us and misguide us. So you see people making decisions after the similitude of the eye, it's what they can see. All right, you see people judging people based on what they can observe alone, and they underestimate. And there's nothing that I have seen that has hindered leaders, including myself, as much as underestimating the potentials of people around. All right, in other words, you really don't know the potentials of anybody around you. All right, because first of all, you don't know the talents, you don't know all the gifts that they have. You can only see the ones that they have shown you. All right, there was a story of a great museum in one of the African countries. All right, and how the museum came into being, you would think that it was a politician, that probably did it. It was actually a cameraman. When he got to the country and he saw the way the whole place was, how they kept their museum, and where they kept their historical data, and he had them that Africa is too beautiful to keep the history in such a place like this. Why don't you build such an amazing edifice? And he said, no, that's not what we need now. All right, and he suggested it, and another country took care of that. And today, standing in that place is a great edifice. Now, looking back at that story, one will probably give the applause to the president or to the politician that did that. But the truth is, in most of the organizations, in most of the places where great things are happening, it is not happening from the top. It is happening from within. It's like an horizontal network. So our ability to connect to people around us, all right, is really going to transform our life and our leadership journey. All right, so to recalibrate ourselves means to recalibrate your instrument. And when I say your instrument, I mean the instrument of everyone. The first instrument of everyone is your heart. You have to recalibrate your heart because your heart is so important. Even medically, your heart is important. But I'm not talking about medicine now. I'm talking about your decision making. All right, about your decision making. Your heart decides who you allow into your space and who you disallow into your space. Your heart decides what you hear when people are speaking to you. Someone may be solving your problem, but because your heart has issue with that person, you don't hear what they're saying. So to recalibrate your heart, it simply means to set a standard for your heart and tell your heart that as long as decision making is concerned, this is how I'm going to operate. This is how I'm going to operate. So how do you recalibrate your heart? But before that, let me just say some of the dangers of poor calibration. Some of the dangers is not just poor measurements, poor decision making. It will go as bad as having poor quality, and it can also go as bad as also causing accidents. All right, it will cause accidents when the calibration is wrong. All right, so we've talked about recalibration, and I've said that to recalibration for us, it means training our hearts and our eyes. All right, so every day when you look around you, you want to ask yourself that, am I seeing people for who they can be, or am I seeing people for who my heart says they are? So recalibration is constantly readjusting our mindsets and readjusting our heart and our eyes to be able to see things from the perspective of love. Now I'm coming to love. So just to summarize that, train your heart to desire and long for compassion. Train your eyes to look with compassion towards people. Now, I can't emphasize that enough. I can't emphasize. See, as a leader, we have to understand that what you are doing, you're not the first person to do it. No matter how big your vision is, you really are not the first person to be doing that. Some of us are already aware of that. And secondly, you are going to stop somewhere. You are going to stop somewhere. All right. And the question is, someone is going to take over from you. So, what is that person going to take over? What is the legacy that you're going to leave? We are coming to legacy. So, constantly we have to train our eyes to look with compassion towards people. I'm coming to compassion shortly, but compassion is, for me, is the best, the closest description to love. Compassion. I want you to say that to yourself. Just say that to yourself. Say that compassion is the closest description to love. Let someone type that. Compassion is the closest description to love. Oh my goodness. Now, I used to think that compassion is a weakness, really. That when a leader is compassionate, maybe it will just, he will just open the storehouse and start, giving out everything. But that's really not it. What compassion does is to connect you to the burdens in the heart of people. And when you are speaking to them, all right, when you are speaking to people, you are solving, you are connecting to the burdens of their hearts, and you are solving the problems in their mind. So once they talk, you are not judging them. Your words to them they are not words of judgment, they are words of understanding, no matter where they are. No matter where they are, no matter where you find them. All right, so I don't want to say something about compassion, but I realize that some of the leaders, that were able to even inscribe their names, on the sands of time, at a season in their life, they took radical decisions of compassion for a cause. Do you want to say people like Mother Teresa, or you want to mention names like Nelson Mandela, or is it Martin Luther King Jr.? All right, and every day we have the opportunity to be compassionate towards people in your network. All right, so just before I go on to the first question, I want to say something about compassion that I believe is profound, and I want you to hold on to very dearly. Hold on to it very dearly. Normally, when I'm speaking, I don't like using Hebrew, Greek, and all that. But for the sake of explaining what love and compassion is, all right, and explaining the ability or the potentials of of compassion, I would like to just take a digression and just give us the Hebrew word. I hope I'm able to get it correctly. All right, now this is it. The word love in Greek, as a lot of us know, is agape. All right, but then in Hebrew, it is rakam, R-A-C-H-A-M. That may not be the right pronunciation now. All right, but take it for that. Rakam. All right. Now, the word compassion also is actually rakam in Hebrew. But that's not it. Now, what does rakam mean? It means to be compassionate. All right, and to deal with people with compassion. All right, so some of the ways it was described, for instance, in the Bible, is that God is compassionate and full of mercy. All right, now don't forget we're talking about leadership here. All right, now one of the closest words, all right, to rakam in the Bible, in Hebrew, is womb. Now, womb is rechem, R-E-C-H-E-M, and it is from rakam, which means love. Rechem, womb. All right. Now, let's look at the womb of a woman, for instance. What is the work of the womb? The womb is a place that provides comfort for a new life. The child that is just coming into the life is not judged. The child has just come, he finds a lot of understanding. He finds a lot of peace, so that when he's even giving birth to, the first thing he does is to cry, right? Because he can feel a change in environment. So the womb, I don't know exactly how the womb feels. I know I've been there before, but it must have been a very comfortable place, a place of love, and a place where love can be nourished, a place where the fetus is matured until a time that it can be delivered to the world. All right. So now, relating that to what compassion is, you can say that compassion gives a man or a woman a womb. Compassion gives you a womb. Now, not the physical womb. Now, so I would rather say there are two kinds of womb. Now, when you see leaders that are doing exploits, consistently doing exploits, and by exploit, I don't mean by sabotaging, I don't mean by manipulating, I mean by doing good. When you see leaders doing that, then they have a kind of womb that is capable of producing new life into the world. All right, so that's compassion for you. So I want to throw a question to you. Do you have the womb for compassion? The womb for compassion is a place where you give people the chance to grow and be involved in their growth process. It's a place where you refuse to judge people at first reaction. When others are judging them, all right, you can connect deeply to their pain of their infirmities. All right, and when you speak or when you relate with them, you can relate based on the pain that they are feeling. Some people call it empathy, some people call it sympathy. All right, so that's the power of compassion. So without compassion, it's really difficult to connect with the people that you lead. It's difficult to connect. Anything that you're doing will rather be using them to get to a particular end. All right. So let me ask you another question. I know leadership is a lot about achieving goals. And usually leadership is probably measured by metrics such as how many people are you leading and how many goals are you building, have you achieved. But really, in my own opinion, I feel leadership is by how many people have you transformed. How many people have been inspired by your life and your legacy? How many wombs have you conceived through your words and through your life? All right, so that is that. I will just quickly go over the questions. I see that our time is fast going. All right, and the first question here is, can anybody lead? Can anybody lead? All right, this is a question that addresses things about competition, which we probably may not want to acknowledge, but it is right there in the world. All right, where there are a lot of competitions, secularly among business, even in families. You'll be surprised where a man tells his wife that you shouldn't apply for that because it strengthens my position. All right, so that's still a question about understanding leadership. So can anybody lead? And where does threat come in leadership? To answer this question, I think the best description I can give is the description of a body. And I believe that when you understand this, it doesn't matter what you lead or where you lead. All right, you feel safe, you feel secured, and you understand that your goal is not to be lord over people. Your goal is to be involved in the development of people, because everybody have an apportioned space of leadership. Whether you are there or not, they have an apportioned space of leadership. All right, so this looks like a simple question, but the answer addresses issues such as leadership competition. Should I allow people under me to lead? How much empowerment should I give to leaders? And what is the role of others in my assignments, projects, or tasks? So taking the body, for instance, I know that the most visible part of the body is perhaps the head. All right. But the truth is, If the hand is absent, then the head is as good as useless. All right. So the same thing also applies for us. Every time we look around us, we just understand that the people within your space, let's understand that the people within our space, we have a role to play in their growth process. And also, there's nothing too much there's no form of empowerment that is too much to give. All right, by empowerment, I don't mean relegating authority now, but I mean being able to love them compassionately and being able to get involved in their growth process. And much more importantly, being able to understand their weaknesses. Being able to understand the weakness of others should not be underestimated. Anytime you are able to understand the weakness of others, you are not just connected to that person, but you are connected to thousands of people that have similar weaknesses. And it's only compassion that can do that for you. A man without compassion, when he looks at someone with weakness, the voice in his heart is different. He has already closed his heart to ideas on how he can solve that person's problem. And this could be someone under your leadership sphere. And a lot of time, you'll be surprised what people are going through under you. You'll be surprised. And a lot of times they're even smiling, they are doing everything. But by the time they open up and tell you, you'll be surprised how much. And unless they do that, many times which they don't, you may not know the depth, the extent. So to have compassion towards people is to even give them an opportunity to be understood. All right, so coming back to that question, can anybody lead? Yes. Everybody is apportioned the space of leadership. And it is my desire that every time we look at people around us, we look at them with that perspective that this is a leader in the making. So even when they don't look like it, even when their actions and their decisions don't feel like it, all right, what happens is you have the womb that only compassion can give to be involved in their weakness and feel the pain of their infirmity. As I'm speaking now, I'm just hoping that you can now start connecting people around you that are going through things. All right, maybe you have just been concerned about your phase of life, and you have been less concerned about the phase of life of others. All right, it is really my desire that you will probably take a break and understand that what you have is not as bad as you think it is. You know, I was listening to someone recently, and he said, in his own opinion, he feels the kind of relationship that should exist is someone without a leg should live with someone without shoes. So every time you want to complain that you don't have a shoe, you remember that, oh, this guy also doesn't have a leg, so you are grateful. Then someone without a wife should probably live with somebody that is probably a widow. All right. So the truth is, you have something that someone else doesn't have, and consequently, you have something to cheer up someone around you, to help someone on their path of leadership. So there are people around you that they are leaders in the making. In this season, the purpose for them being around you may just be for them to be enlightened by you and to be conceived in your womb of compassion until another season. That season of their emergence may not be around you, but just be involved in the capacity that you can. All right. So I move over to the second question. How does love change everything in leadership? How does love change everything in leadership? Love changes everything in leadership. Everything in leadership. All right. And I will start from, there are seven things I want to discuss here. All right. The first thing that love changes is it affects your motivation. You know, when you read, my perspective of love and our perspective of love in LUN is influenced and is rooted in the Bible, in the 1 Corinthians 13 kinds of love. And there you see that he says that every action that a man does without love is actually useless, is nothing. In other words, anything that you do without genuine compassion is actually a manipulation. So I can call someone and I can share humble to someone. The truth is, am I really doing that out of compassion because I'm really compassionate? All right, or I'm just doing that, just to prove a point and to show off. All right, while I want your humble and I want you to keep sharing your humble, but really to get the best of the best, you need to do things out of compassion. We need to do things out of compassion. All right, so the first thing that compassion does for you, that compassion does for anyone, or that love does in our journey of leadership, is that it influences our motivation for leadership. And we have seen a lot of times that people are discouraged about their leadership. They are discouraged about how they have been treated. They are discouraged about events and things that has happened. They are discouraged about delays in reward. All right, what else have discouraged people? All right, maybe you organized an event and people didn't show up. Thank God people showed up for Loveworks Masterclass. But there are a lot of things that, there are a lot of things that discourage people in the journey of leadership. And this is where the question of motivation now comes into play. Unless love is your motivation, all right, you can't really stand the test of the journey. So the first thing that love changes, it becomes your motivation for everything you're doing. And you're not motivated just by what you can see, the outer rewards. You are motivated by the inner strength that love is producing. Then the second thing that love does is it becomes the womb. We've talked about Reckon. Love becomes the womb where ideas and your vision and your purpose is bettered. Let me say that again. We have discussed that love is like a womb, the way the womb of a woman. We all came out from the womb, right? All right, that's also what love does. Love becomes the womb where vision are crystallized, where vision is bettered. Now, when we're not leading, or when our leadership is not rooted and not submitted to the principles of love, what happens is even our vision becomes questionable. Our vision is nothing but an ambition. All right. So how do we do this? It is simple. We just submit ourselves to the principles of love. You decide that every action that you do, it has to be driven by compassion. All right. Then another thing it does is it affects how we relate with people. You see, our influence is a privilege towards people. Every influence that you have, whether it is a social media influence, it is a privilege. I remember someone saying that every promotion that you have is actually a test. That it is not really a promotion in that sense. It is a test for a new level. And I believe the same thing about influence. So when our leadership is founded on love, what happens is it influences how we see people. So there are several ways of seeing people. I can see people based on their limitations. I can see people based on their weaknesses. And I can see people based on compassion. All right, so let me ask you a question. How are you seeing people within your network? How are you seeing people around you? Are you seeing them from the standpoint of compassion? And don't forget what we have said about compassion. Compassion is a womb. All right, it's just a matter of time. When you consistently deal with someone in compassion, all right, it means you desire to be involved in their transformation. You desire to be involved in their success story. And someone like Zig Ziglar said something. He said, "You can't keep lifting someone up and you remain down yourself." So when you are involved compassionately relating with people, first of all, judging people will not be. In fact, and you can't stay around people that judge. You can't. There'll be that feeling. Anytime you hear someone that is judgmental, there'll be that feeling, no, this is not where I belong. All right. Now, that does not mean you are permitting evil to thrive because you don't want to judge. Rather, it means you are permitting good. All right. And you are doing everything that is necessary, including setting the necessary boundaries just to ensure that good is protected. All right, so another thing it does for you is that it helps you to forgive people that hurt you because you understand that you have also hurt others and you desire forgiveness. Don't forget, we are talking about how love changes everything. There are lots of organizations today that are not existing, but they could have been the greatest of organizations. Why? Because they have been hurt. The people that are pioneering them have been hurt. And consequently, they have severed their relationship with people. I remember a wise man once said that, be careful how you close doors behind you. Because, the door that you close today may be the entrance to another next level tomorrow. So you really want to be careful in your dealings with people. In leadership, you want to be careful in your dealings with people. And you want to be sure, all right, that you have a heart that is ready to forgive people even before they hurt you. A wise man calls it the law of advanced forgiveness. And I have not found a place where that is even much more important than in marriage, for instance. There are times that I feel hurt or my wife feels hurt, but because we have just decided to forgive ourselves, all right, we know that after all the hurt, we are still coming back to reconcile. All right. So, founding your leadership on the principles of love, it ensures that there's no space in your heart for the thorn, I call it thorn, of unforgiveness and hurt. What these things does is they suck life out of innovation. They suck life out of growth. And you see someone that is supposed to be like a 100-star leader, struggling with 5-star leadership. Why? Because he has no space in his heart for growth. The space has been filled up with memories of what? Every time a new idea is supposed to come, they feel crushed by the memories of what? By the memories of unforgiveness. So deciding to forgive people in advance is something that changes everything for a leader. It changes everything for a leader. All right, some of the greatest innovation that we are seeing around in the world today, they were not the first attempts at the innovation. I was reading someone like Winston Churchill. We know the name of Winston Churchill today. All right, I learned that he contested for so many elections in his lifetime, and he failed at all of them. The only one he won was the one that he became the Prime Minister of Britain. All right, now that's telling us something. He's telling us resilience, but now bringing it to leadership. All right, you are going to be hurt. All right, you are going to meet a lot of things, but ensuring that there's no space in your heart for bitterness is going to do you more good than those people, than the people that have hurt you. What it does for you is to open up doors. So the next thing I want to add is that it also reminds you to be humble when things when things seem to be perfect, because you can be touched by the infirmities of people and the pain of people in the imperfect world. Now, there are times where you feel successful. Now, I know as a leader, especially as a leader that probably has a great vision, that may not be very true. Even when people say you are very, very successful and people say people are applauding you, you know within yourself that I'm still far from it. I know some of us can relate to that. All right, and the reason is because the vision of what you can see and the vision that is in your heart is far apart. All right, but now I'm just assuming you're in that phase of life where things seem to be at least better than how it used to be. What love does for you is to keep you humble because it reminds you of where you're coming from. And every time you see people that are going through that, one of the things that hurts me the most is when I see people that have seen the bad side of life and they are now, enjoying life, and they can't really relate again with those days, and they can't really connect with the people that used to be there. All right, so what happens is our compassion determines how high and how high we rise. Let me say that again. Remember, compassion is a womb. The more compassionate you are, the bigger your womb. What do we do? What does a womb do? A womb releases, it conceives, and it releases new life. Compassion, what does it do? It connects you to the pains of people, and it gives you creativity, it gives you ideas, it gives you resources, it gives you opportunities, it gives you the network to be able to solve those things. All right, so when you are able to connect to the pains of people through compassion, all right, what happens is ideas and opportunities to be able to solve that start coming. But immediately you disconnect yourself from that, you become disconnected from opportunities. You become disconnected from ideas. that can actually take you to the next level. And that's where people experience stagnancy in their leadership. All right. You see, they once asked a wise man that what wakes him up in the morning. He said he doesn't need an alarm to wake up in the morning. He said what wakes him up in the morning is his vision. But really, I believe that what wakes him up in the morning is not just vision. It is compassion in his heart for those people that need the vision. Now, that compassion is what drives him to do everything. Now, some people might be listening and be saying that it's only compassion that one needs. There is not only compassion that one needs. You need skill. You need, yeah. Compassion is what is going to take you through the rigors of the skills that you're going to take. Don't forget, we have said compassion is the reason why a lot of people want to be successful. Sometimes it could be very funny, but it's just to make a point. They just want to make a point, maybe to their parents that told they can do it. Sometimes it is for the social media, for a social media hype. So because the motivation has been wrong from the start, you see, even ideas and opportunities to take them to a global audience will always elude them, even when it is very close to them. You know, I love this verse that says that the love of God has been shed abroad in our hearts. In other words, the love that is in your heart, it has the potential to reach out to anywhere. It can be limited if you allow the womb of that compassion to be released. So I don't know what is your current strength of leadership, all right? But I believe that even as I'm speaking, you already know things that you need to do, and that's really my earnest desire, that you know the things that you need to do to move to the next level of leadership, to move to the next level of influence, such that when you leave an environment, the people are not just going to miss you because you have reproduced yourself in that place, but they will miss you because you have produced so much life in them. Let me say that again. It is my desire, all right, that after today, you know exactly things that you need to do to move your leadership to the next level. And every of those things should be around compassion. When you are speaking with someone, just ask yourself, what's the reason why this person is like this? What's the reason why this person is like this? You know, some of the amazing women in the world, for instance, some of the influential women in the world, for instance, if they tell you their background, you'll be surprised. One of them was raped several years by father. I mean, raped several years by father. Now, if such a person is talking to you, hey, oh my goodness, if such a person is your roommate, you are not going to have a very good time unless you have decided to be a person of love. The reason why I'm saying that is, most likely they will flare up at every opportunity. Most likely they will keep to themselves and not want to talk to you. Most likely, they will misunderstand your intentions. Even your good intentions, they will misunderstand it. And most likely, they will even pay you evil for good. But you know that sometimes what you just need to be able to penetrate into the heart of these people is just to understand where they are coming from. And to understand that this person that is always flaring up like this, there's a reason why he's flaring up like this. After I finish flaring up, why don't I just engage him in the conversation and ask him that, hey, I just want to ask something about your childhood. What are your best memories and now what are your worst memories in childhood? And I tell you that I don't want to talk about my childhood because and you will get to know why they act the way they act. All right, because of time, I move over to the next one. It keeps your hope alive when things are imperfect because you know your womb as a child that must save the world for some persons. I've talked about when things look good around you. There are also times when things don't look good, where you feel you have been betrayed, where you feel you're in the wilderness part of life, and you feel all your hopes and expectations has been let down. What keeps you alive in those times is love. What keeps you alive is compassion. Because you know that there are some people that are going through these tough times too. You know, there are some people that are going through this tough time. Someone like Nelson Mandela, he was kept underground, imprisoned. He was not able to see the sun for several years. And they gave him opportunity to come out. You know, he said he wasn't going to come out. But then there was something that kept him there. All right. And it was a desire for the liberation of his people that kept him there. Now, for some of us also, we might be exposed to certain things. All right. And we feel like giving up. Maybe you have even written off yourself as a good leader. Maybe you look at your track record, the opportunities that you have missed, and you look at the failures that you have met, and you are like, I'm not called out for this. All right, I'm here to tell you today that your starting point should be the starting point of compassion. First of all, be compassionate towards yourself and understand that you are the hope of a generation. Understand that there are certain persons also that are going through this. Some of them, I really hope that they're going to make it alive to hear your story. All right, but some of them are going to draw out a lot of strength, a lot of inspiration, a lot of hope from your story. So it is very important for us to understand that in seasons of wilderness, where it feels like everything is wrong and nothing is working out well, we understand that love keeps our hope alive. Love keeps your hope alive. All right, and we are getting to the end now. Then, love is also what remains. Your compassion is also what remains at the end of everything. At the end of it all, when you get to the grave of a man, there are two dates that are written there. They write the date that the man is born, and they write the date that the man died. Then in between the two dates, they put a dash there. That dash is his legacy. And the interesting thing about legacy is you're already living your legacy right now. All right. Now, if you can't really remember anything about your legacy, there's still a lot of chance to intentionally write the kind of legacy that you want. There's a lot of chance. All right. So, how does love affect your legacy? Love makes you a maker of leader and not just a leader. See, my desire really is not to be a leader. My desire is to be an inspiration to people, to become an inspiration to others, not just to become leaders. Because the way the world has defined leadership, it makes it subjective. But I believe that the love-based definition of leader is someone that desires for others to emerge and to get to the best of their abilities. When you get to a community and all the questions that comes up in your mind is, what is the best possibility of this community? When you see people in their unfinished form, some of us know crude oil. All right. Some of us probably, if we see gold in its raw form, we hate it. But after it has been refined, we can pay almost anything to get it. That's how men are. The people around you, some of them in your leadership network that others have written off, they have great potentials. They don't even know it. All right. Now, it is part of your legacy as you are compassionate towards them. All right. To be able to see the picture that others are not seeing concerning them. And you don't just stop at seeing that picture alone. Then you are able to say those things that others are not seeing concerning them. And you don't just say it, then you walk the mile with them. All right, it is only compassion that can do that. So I think our time is fast spent, and there's still the 80-20 rule of leadership. There's the 3 pillars of leadership. In the 3 pillars of leadership, I wanted to talk about 3 important things that every leader does and how it all affects their influence. But for the sake of time, I won't go into that now. All right, and identifying leadership defining moments. All right. Okay, I guess I will just stop here. So I want to know if there's any question. If there's no question, I'll talk about identifying leadership defining moments. So if there's a question, I'll just take the question. So is there any question? Thank you, Manelo Musa. All right, is there any question? Any question? Do you have any question about leading by love? All right, so I'll just count 5. If there's no question, I'll talk about identify leadership defining moments. All right, thank you, Mr. Olano. There are a lot of people that I'm also inspired by, someone like Olano. All right. I believe you guys, you're all doing amazing, great work in your communities. And it's really my desire that we keep reproducing love in our community. You know, anytime I get to a community, one thing I first of all look for is love. And love is not just a feeling. Love is something tangible that you can see. If you get to a home, you can know if there's love there. And it's not that that's not how you feel love in the place. You feel love by the sacrifices that people are ready to make. You feel love, all right. You feel love by their ability to let go of their choices to serve the needs of others. All right. So I can see there's no question. So I'll just go to identifying leadership defining moments. So every time around us, we are facing tests that takes us to the next level of our leadership. And usually this test is with people around us. And many times, I regret to say that people fail this test. So there was a story of a butterfly. Some of us might have heard it. They use it in an analogy for leadership. You know, a butterfly undergoes several transitions before it becomes a butterfly. All right. So while undergoing that transition, so the shell, I mean the cocoon or whatever the name is, all right, was breaking, and a man happened to be walking by, and he saw this little insect struggling to come out of it, and it was a beautiful sight. It was like, you know, like a delivery. So the man was fascinated by this, and he was, wow, let me watch what is going to happen here. And after several minutes, hours, the guy, the butterfly, was still struggling to come out of the whole thing. And the man said, okay, I gotta go to work. So he went to work. And on his way back, he checked. That's hours after. The butterfly had still not come out of this thing. So he felt so desperate that, okay, I just need to do something. Then he removed the shell and the butterfly came out. All right. Now he was able to free the butterfly. But something bad happened. Some of the feathers of the butterfly were not properly formed. So it was not able to fly. And the purpose for the transformation, for the transition was defeated. And he regretted it. Now, every time we look around us, there are people that are undergoing transitions. People are not in their finished state. A lot of times we expect them to be in their finished state. We set expectations on people. We see married people set expectations on their spouse. We see people in relationships set expectations on their fiancé or fiancée. We see people leaders set expectations on their members. Now, it's not bad to have expectations, but we have to understand that people are in a transition. They're in a state of growing, in a state of emergence. And our role really is not to turn them into anything, but our role is to know what is in needed input. Sometimes it will just be a word of encouragement. I learned that a lot from my wife. So many times, you know, my wife will come and, you know, tell me some issues. And being the motivational speaker that I sometimes like to be, I would, you know, start advising her on what to do. I realized that more often than not, what I just needed to do is just to listen to her. And after saying all the problem, she will now be like, okay, I think I know what the answer is. And tell me what my answer would have been. And I'll be like, oh my goodness. So this is how this thing works. But that doesn't mean the next time I will still be tempted to still, you know, share my advice. So the moral is, while people are going through transition around us, someone that is going through transition might be someone that flare up around you. It might be someone that is not excellent, so to say, in what they do. It's just for us to know that this is someone in need, and knowing what role you are to play in their emergence. And play that role if you can. But please ensure that when people come to you, you leave them in a better state, or they leave in a better state than they came. Of course, we might not always have that, and we don't have the authority over people to decide how people become. And you learn to forgive yourself. But as much as we can, understand that there are leadership defining moments around you. And these are moments where you're able to connect compassionately with what people are going through. Sometimes there may be moments of pressure on you. Moments of pressure on you. You forget your pressure. You lay your pressure down and decide to relate in compassion towards other people that are going through pressure. And you realize that, boom, a major breakthrough came in for you. Some of the greatest ideas that are flying around in the world, they came at the lowest point of life for people. Those are leadership defining moments. So when next your leadership defining moment comes, it might not come announced. It might come when you're going through the hardest periods of your life. It may be your wilderness experience. It may be the wilderness experience of another, because we are all interconnected. We are made by love. We are made for love. We are made to love. So because our destinies are all connected, all right, the wilderness experience of another person may just be the emergence of you, because you are able to connect compassionately with the needs of that person. And in solving the problems of that person, you experience a promotion, you experience an idea that takes you to the next level. You see, almost all singers that are popular today, they will tell you that their song that is famous everywhere is not their first song. Sometimes it's not their 10th song, it's not their 50th song. They've been singing, but all of a sudden they sang a hit song. And sometimes the hit song probably came in times where they didn't even expect it. So expect your leadership defining moment to come anytime. Of course, there are a lot of leadership defining moments that will keep coming to you. So identify them and keep passing them. So family, this brings us to the end of the masterclass for today. The other things I want to talk about will probably be rescheduled for another event. All right, for another event, probably next month, or we get to hear about it. I want to ask once again, if there's any question, please let us know. If there's any question, is there any question? Going one, going two, going three. All right, so that's amazing, no question. So that means we have all agreed that we are going to be compassionate to the people around us. So this training was brought to you by LoveWorks. LoveWorks is one of the arms of Love Umbrella Network. And our goal is to raise ambassadors to spread love all around the world. And it's our hope that one day we come to your neighborhood and we hear about the exploits that not you are doing, but people that have been inspired by you are doing in that place. So that's our goal, that's our desire. And that's one of the things that inspired this series on Leadership Masterclass. All right, so this brings us to the end. Please follow us on Mr. and Mrs. V and Love Umbrella. Now, the material for this is going to be available for people that signed up. If you know you still desire to get the material, all right, follow Mr. and Mrs. V. Follow Mr. and Mrs. V and probably just drop a message, and it will also be shared. For people that register, you're going to get a message, an email by I think by 9 p.m. today. That's GMT +8. All right. It contains a feedback. Please, we appreciate your feedback concerning this, how you want us to improve on it. So that will be the end of this session. We really want to say a very big thank you to everyone that joined us. Let me just connect with one or two persons. Mr. Olano, Dr. Latitia.
Oh, good afternoon, sir. I'm connecting from Nigeria, Lagos, in Nigeria.
Oh, awesome. Hi, it's Lagos, Nigeria.
Fine, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That was a powerful session.
Thank you so much. It is our hope that you also inspire a lot of leaders around you by love and by compassion.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. I know you're registered, so you get an email in the next 30 minutes thereabouts. So we appreciate your feedback through the email. Right, Mr. Holano.
Yeah, can you see me? Still a little bit dark.
Okay.
So I'm connecting from China in Jiangsu province, Nanjing City. So thank you so much for the session. And it was an insight and an inspiration. Understanding leadership from a different perspective when it comes to love because this is not something that we see in the corporate environment. Leaders always see themselves to be too much bossy and too much demanding and commanding. So I think if we can start to see leadership from this perspective, then things can change, especially in the workplace. People can feel at home, they can feel loved, they can feel encouraged to wake up in the morning to go to work, because some people see their work to be a burden to them, but they are just there because they want to go and get something for their family at the end of the month. But then if the environment can be all about love, I think it's going to make a great difference. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I see you doing an amazing job in your leadership space, and we hope to keep hearing exploits, and both horizontally and vertically. And this is the end of this episode of the Loveworks Masterclass. I want to say a very big thank you. So till you hear from us, please keep spreading love around the world. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Love you. Bye.